Advanced English Story. The Wedding. Some days seem never-ending, especially when you have deadlines to meet and targets to uphold. It's hard to keep track of everything when there's so much to do. How do you keep going when you feel like you'll never get to the end of your ever-extending list? This was something Carol was contemplating as she sat at her desk. She'd had a ridiculously busy week, and her weekend was about to get even busier. What is it they say? There are 3 very stressful events that occur in people's lives: getting married, getting divorced, and moving house. In the last 3 months, Carol had done 2 of those things. The next day, she was about to do the other. Carol had recently finalized her divorce. She had previously been married for 10 years, but the relationship had run its course. Then, out of nowhere, she met someone. Meeting a new man was the last thing on her mind. After 10 years in a serious relationship, she just wanted some alone time. A few months after Carol and her ex had parted ways, she bumped into an old college friend at the dentist. What a place to meet someone when your face is numb from injections and you're dribbling all over the place. Carol had gone to the dentist to have a filling, but came out with the number of her soon-to-be fella Marco. They hadn't seen each other in well over 10 years. During college, they were the best of friends. He always knew how to get her into hysterics. Carol was a little apprehensive about what people might say. After all, she hadn't even got divorced yet. Her ex, Joel, was very understanding. In fact, he was over the moon for Carol. He wanted her to be happy. She deserved it. Long story short, after a year of dating, they decided to tie the knot. Carol wasn't one for rushing into things, but being with Marco always felt so natural. Looking back, it was obvious they should have always been together. Joel had also met someone new, but was taking it easy. He was planning to go travelling and wanted to get the divorce finalised before he jumped into something else with someone new. Joel and Carol were still great friends. As she sat at her desk, feeling on edge, she decided to give him a ring. She unloaded all her concerns. He always knew how to make her feel better. In the last year, Carol had got divorced, had met someone new, and they had moved into their fancy new pad together. Tomorrow would be the 3rd stressful thing she was about to endure: a wedding day. Endure was probably the wrong word to describe it. Of course, it would be one of the best days of her life. It's just that the planning of the event had started to take its toll on Carol. Carol wasn't interested in being a bridezilla. For her, weddings should be purely about love, but for some reason, everyone else had other ideas. From favours to bridesmaids to extravagant cakes, she was at her wit's end. Why did everyone else always feel the need to get involved in her life? In a way, Carol just wanted the day to be over so she could fly off on her honeymoon and have some peace and quiet. She never expected to get divorced from Joel, and she feels incredibly lucky to still have him in her life. He's one of her best friends. Now she's met someone else, she feels privileged to have the opportunity to be in such a loving relationship. She just wished the wedding could be a smaller scale affair. On the other hand, she got it. Marco was excited and wanted to create some lasting memories for his friends and family. Carol just wished it didn't cost so much. For Marco, it was his first and hopefully only time getting married, so he wanted to splurge. He'd booked a band, a 5-course dinner, a top DJ to entertain the guests, and had a designer suit made especially for him. Nothing says wedding like a bespoke outfit. Carol knew that she just had to relax and enjoy the day. She was getting wrapped up in worrying about everyone else. She had everything under control. Now she just had to go with the flow and let it happen. That night, Carol decided to pamper herself. She painted her nails, did a face mask, and had a long bath surrounded by candles. She spoke to Marco on the phone because, as tradition dictates, you don't see your partner the night before the wedding. The next morning was complete mayhem. Carol's house was full of people, from hairdressers to makeup artists to florists and cake delivery people. She barely had a minute to herself. When Carol and her bridesmaids were ready, they had about half an hour before they had to leave for the service. They cracked open a bottle of bubbly and reminisced about old times. Carol really appreciated her friends. They had stood by her and helped her through thick and thin. The best part was, most of them knew Marco, as they had all gone to college together. While they were all enjoying their champagne, the bridesmaids presented Carol with the traditional things every bride needs on her wedding day. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. The old was her mother's necklace, which also doubled up as the borrowed. The new was her diamond earrings, which Marco had bought for her as a surprise. The blue was a beautiful blue flower that was added to her bouquet. Carol felt overcome with emotion as the car arrived to pick them all up and take them to the venue. She only wished her dad could be there to walk her down the aisle, but he had sadly passed away a few years before. When they all arrived at the venue, they had some photographs taken together. Then it was time to marry the man she loved. As she walked down the aisle, she saw Joel and smiled. He was happy she had met someone else. The ceremony went according to plan. There were tears and laughter. Suddenly, everything felt like it had fallen into place for Carol. What more could she want from life? She had a great career, wonderful husband, brilliant friends, and the best ex-husband she could wish for. Carol was one lucky lady. We hope you enjoyed this short, lovely English story. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe.